Hey, what's going on, bulls? As usual, you subscribe to this channel to get the latest news on Bitcoin and everything crypto. And in case you're living under a rock, the biggest thing being talked about right now, which we made a video on yesterday, but we need to talk about it some more, is this death cross. Now, what a death cross is a technical analysis term, meaning when the 50-day price average and the 200-day price average cross. In particular, when the 50 drops below the 200. That's what a death cross is. And actually, when the 50 goes above the 200, that's called a golden cross. So check this out. The Coinbase co-founder, he's talking about a warning for crypto price as the death cross fear spreads. Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency market has slipped under 1.5 trillion, down from 2.5 trillion in May. Now, like I said, the 50-day moving average has officially fallen below the 200-day moving average. This pattern is named the death cross. Now, again, the Coinbase co-founder Fred Ursum has warned most cryptocurrencies and crypto assets won't work, and 90% of NFTs have little or no value in 3 to 5 years. I completely agree with that. But Bitcoin is not one of these that will fail, in my opinion. In my opinion, and many people's opinion, Bitcoin is the one. It is the one. It is the one. It is the Neo of the Matrix. It is the one, and as Eminem would say, I'm the real Slim Shady. Now, as we go down here, something else worth looking at to expand on this is the last time this trading pattern, this death cross happened, it was in March of 2020, and it heralded a huge Bitcoin bull run. And of course, that helped all the other cryptocurrencies surge also. So that's a really interesting thing to pay attention to. Now, again, this is just Ursum saying many of these smaller cryptocurrencies won't survive, and I 1000% agree with that. Of course, Coinbase's stock, they went public, their stuff has gone down a bit. But, he also warned against investing in NFTs, not in general, but that most will certainly go to crap, and I completely agree with that. One thing I just really want to point out about this death cross, which we'll get to, I'll show you some charts and something else in a second. One thing I really want to point out is that let's just move into the next article. This sums it up. So the argument is, well, is the death cross for Bitcoin, is it going to be bearish or bullish? Bearish meaning go down, bullish meaning go up. Because like we saw here, the last time they crossed in March 2020, the Bitcoin price actually surged, went on a huge bull run, as well as did the whole crypto market. Now, those are the two arguments. A number of traders believe Bitcoin's short-term moving average, which is the 50-day, when it dips below the long-term, which is the 200, the crypto asset could be bracing for a major sell-off. Now, that's the important thing to look at, one of the important things, a major sell-off, because the question, the thought there as well, this is going to put more fear into the market, and more people are going to try to get out. Now, with that being said, if you look at the wallets across Bitcoin, about 80% of Bitcoin holders literally never sell. It's always the newer investors that sell. So the question is, will they get spooked and create a sell-off, just trying to get out while they can? I mean, summer is upon us. People are able to get outdoors and do more things now. People probably want money to go do things. And so I could definitely see a world where there are a lot of newer people in Bitcoin that just sell it off to get their money out and go on a trip or buy a car or buy a house, but mostly to go on trips, to do activities, stuff like that. And of course, the other side of this coin is Others are sure the death cross means the price is due to rebound and possibly double top to higher values than the previous all-time high. So those are the two sides of the argument, and I think there's a good argument for both of them. Either way, being a Bitcoin bull in particular, I don't sell my Bitcoin. I don't sell it, and not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing my opinion with you. Do your own research, all that stuff. I hold Bitcoin. I don't sell Bitcoin because I believe Bitcoin will keep taking chunks and chunks and chunks out of the store value market, the investment market, the fiat market, the entire monetary global market. And Bitcoin has done nothing in its existence to contradict what I'm saying. Every time you look, Bitcoin is taking a chunk out of something else. It is expanding. It is expanding. It is expanding. This time around in this bull cycle, it moved further into the hedge funds. Hell, a country, El Salvador, made it legal tender. Because the first place where a new thing like this could go would be just to the regular individual Joe Schmo or super early adopter, in this case, supercomputer nerd people, right? Because they understand it first, or at least they see the vision first. And then they talk about it a bunch, and we all look at them like, yeah, whatever, you're a weirdo. And then eventually we start to see the price go up, and we're like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then we do a little more research, and then we're like, okay, I see this. I'm going to buy some of this, or I'm just buying it because it's going up. And then eventually it gets to such a threshold that all of a sudden hedge funds are looking at it, going, wait a minute, our entire goal is to invest money and earn money off of our money. Over the last however many, since its existence, statistically speaking, and it's not even close, Bitcoin has been the best return on your investment of anything that has basically ever existed. When I say basically, I'm just using that to be a little conservative. I do believe, statistically speaking, in the 11, 12 years it's been around, it averages going up about 200% a year. I don't think anything has ever done that. And so eventually these hedge funds are like, well, I guess I got to get a hold of some of this. I'm not going to put my entire hedge fund in it, but how about we do a 1% allocation? When you got a $60 billion hedge fund, that's, it's a good chunk of money. That's $600 million. And then you move into countries. Then you move into the big ones, like, well, of course, countries and banks and reserves and fixed income market, which is like pensions, which is a $100 trillion market. And you move into bonds, which are multiple hundreds of trillions of dollars. And we're sitting here talking about the entire crypto market is around $1.5 trillion, which is a drop in the bucket of how much money there is in the world. Actually, it's even just a drop in the bucket of how much capital, investment capital, is in the world. So Bitcoin to me has so much further to go. I'm a strong believer Bitcoin within the next 10 years will be $1 million of Bitcoin. Because of that, because the gold market, for instance, is about 10, 11 trillion. And I think that's the next thing for Bitcoin to conquer. And then once it does that, it's going to get that much more interest from the bigger entities, such as your fixed income market, which would be your pensions, which is easily $100 trillion globally, and your bond investment companies, which the bond market is in the hundreds of trillions. And there's just so much money to be able to be directed towards Bitcoin, where we're living in this increasingly digital world. It's been like that for 30 years. Almost 30 years, 25 years maybe. And I don't see, there's been nothing to contradict our growth into being a digital society is going to be stopping. As a matter of fact, it's been accelerating, and every year it accelerates. It only makes sense that our currency would just be digital. I mean, you probably don't carry that much cash. I mean, everything you do is pretty much numbers you see on a computer screen already. The only thing with Bitcoin is it actually has a finite amount to it, 21 million. So it can't be debased, which means devalued, where they put out more and more supply because the more supply there is, the lower the value of something. Bitcoin has a fixed amount, which is even better than gold, because gold doesn't have a fixed amount. It just has a very low stock to flow ratio, which stock would mean how much you have, and the flow would be the inflow of new supply. Where gold is the best stock to flow ratio we've ever seen in humanity. But at the next halving, Bitcoin will be the best stock to flow ratio we've ever seen. Because right now, Bitcoin's at about 55 is the stock flow ratio. I think gold's at 62. So at the next halving, which if you don't know what that is, every about 4 years, the reward for mining a Bitcoin block gets cut in half. So originally when Bitcoin came out, when you mined a block of Bitcoin, there'd be 50 Bitcoins, I believe 50 Bitcoins that would be distributed amongst everyone involved in equally given how much hash rate they put into each block, which is just how much power they put into cracking each block, solving each block. And every 4 years it halves. So it went from 50 to 25 to 12.5. And now the last halving happened in, I think, March of last year, 2020. And now we're at 6.25. So the next halving will be at 3.125. So that's something to really keep in mind. There's nothing that I am more bullish on than Bitcoin itself, because of so many reasons. But let's go to this real quick. Investopedia, they say the definition of a death cross is the potential for a major sell-off, and it is, because that can shake confidence in the market. But not the long-term. I want you to remember the long-term holders of Bitcoin. 80+% of Bitcoin wallets literally don't sell Bitcoin, if you can even fathom that. So this entire market is really run by the about 20%, maybe not even that much, of probably newer people that do sell Bitcoin. And there's also the derivatives market and the actual miners themselves who have to sell the Bitcoin that they mine. So that's what really fuels the market. Most of the Bitcoin actually doesn't move around at all. So the people that are controlling these prices are the ones that are the most active. But we know that the demand for Bitcoin is just going to keep rising as more and more people become aware of what this really is, which is the evolution of global finance is really what it is. In the most perfect form that we've ever seen. I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm going to talk. I talk about that in every video. I like to drop little pieces in there for you to think about and explore on your crypto / Bitcoin journey. Death cross doesn't necessarily mean a bearish market is due. They also say that. Now, for instance, the Dow Jones has experienced 84 death crosses since 1929. That is when I believe the Great Depression started. I think it was 1929 when the market really went to poop. But this 1 week historical returns following a Bitcoin death cross are positive historically. So once a death cross happens, like it did yesterday, historically the returns with a Bitcoin death cross are positive, because there's been this many death crosses, not including the one that just happened yesterday. The return, 1 week after, 2.1%, 0.9, 20%, down 2.4. The lowest, that's the lowest, and all the other ones were pretty minimal, actually. The average up 2.56 and the median being 0.38. Pretty interesting. Now, this is put out by Plan B on Twitter. He shows this chart here of several crosses happening. I think this is very worth looking at. He says a number of death crosses have happened in Bitcoin's lifetime. And now this person here said there have been 6 past death crosses in Bitcoin's lifetime, which we just looked at up there. 4 resulted in enormous downside. Now, that does not seem to be true when you look at this, because none of this, I would say, looks like enormous downside or upside. I would say it looks almost non-existent. But you can see here, we'll get to this chart to really look. I think we'll look at this one quick. This is a death cross. This is where the 50 is going below the 200. This is a golden cross where the 50 is going above the 200. Now look at this golden cross. That's supposed to be thought of as a strong as an indicator for a bullish market. the Golden Cross happened, look at what Bitcoin did. Boom, tank. Quickly. But then it started climbing back up. And then we had another Golden Cross. And the market continued to go up. And this is the most recent one we've been on. And now here is where our new death cross is during this downish thing. So it's really interesting because here is a death cross and the market kind of continued just its normal trend going down, but it did spike up as we led to the death cross right here. Isn't that interesting? Now down here as we led up to it, the market really just has stayed flat. Let's look down here. One thing to note, CNBC's crypto trader show Rand Nooner, he said Bitcoin shorts are being closed, and he thinks this is confirmation that shorts were speculative and it wasn't miners hedging. So he said, expect more FUD, I'm not selling. I agree with him. I'm not selling. I don't care what the short-term price of Bitcoin does because I know it goes up over time better than anything that's ever existed. And we have a pretty good track record to show that, not to mention quite a case as to why that will continue. I mean, quite a case. This chart here, so here's a death cross. See what the market did. It went up a little bit, actually, and then it went down. But not any faster than it looked like the trajectory was going. See this arrow? And then it started kind of ticking back up, and now we had a golden cross, and the market went down here. And then we had another death cross while the market was going up. And it kept going up. It kept going up, and then we had a golden cross, and the market went kind of flat. So this is a zoom in of this time frame back here. Now, we haven't had another cross since that one down there until this one, which happened yesterday, June 19th. So what's going to happen here? I don't know. But I'm not selling. This isn't like some short-term thing for me or for anyone that really understands what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, it is my opinion at the end of the day because it hasn't happened, so I can't say it's a fact. But from everything I see and read, from as unbiased standpoint as I can be, the strongest case by far I've heard is how Bitcoin is the future of store value, the future of finance, the future of economic trade. Because it seems to be the most stable store of value thing that we have ever seen. And everything it overcomes, such as, say, SegWit in 2017, 2018, if you don't know what that was a division between the miners, who are the nodes in Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin isn't run by anybody. Bitcoin's not run by any. It's a completely community-run thing. If you can be a voter in Bitcoin, and you don't need to have, because you can just set up your computer to and get the right material, the right equipment to mine Bitcoin, and all of a sudden you have a node, and you get to vote. And it doesn't matter how much hash power you have, because you have a node, and you get to vote. There are lots and lots of voters in Bitcoin. Now, it's all truly community-driven, because there's no one that runs Bitcoin. There's no centralization. It's the only crypto that's actually decentralized. It's the only one. And part of you is probably thinking, what? That can't be true. I mean, what about Ethereum? What about, this? What about that? They're all decentralized. No, they're all on blockchain technology, but Bitcoin is the only one that is actually decentralized. All the other cryptos have a centralized element to them. In other words, there is a small group of people, if not one individual, that can just change whatever they want with the entire coin, with the entire crypto, with the entire blockchain thing. Like Ethereum, it's been changed. And that just gets decided on by like Vitalik Buterin and maybe a few people. Like that's it. And it's not a community-driven thing. Bitcoin is a community-driven thing. To go back to SegWit, what that really was a argument between miners, nodes, community in Bitcoin. And a percentage, small percentage it ended up being, of nodes, miners of the community really wanted to allow Bitcoin to scale, and so they wanted to do a hard fork, which is literally creating a new chain off of the current one, which is a very distinguished changing of what Bitcoin has been. It would be a complete changing of Bitcoin. And this turned into Bitcoin Cash. What it really showed was that by far most of the nodes, miners, the community, said, no, we're going to stay on Bitcoin, because if we do what you're saying and we majority agree on that, we will take away Bitcoin will now be centralized, because here we are changing it. Because you can upgrade, you can do things without changing it. And that's what this SegWit, this hard fork, was doing. It was literally changing it. And so you can't stop a fork from happening. But you can have the community ignore it. And the community overwhelmingly stuck with regular Bitcoin and ignored what they wanted to be the new Bitcoin, some people, which just ultimately turned into Bitcoin Cash. And yes, Bitcoin Cash can scale faster and do faster transactions, but it would take away the real inherent value of Bitcoin, which is the decentralization, which is the actual community-driven element, which is the actual power of it, which is why it keeps taking bites out of everything in the financial market, because it's the most sound money humanity has ever known. And I highly suggest you looking up what is sound money. Gold, until now, excuse me. I always find it funny to listen to people sneeze, because we all sneeze a little different. I feel like I have a pretty normal sneeze. But anyways, sound money is something that has, for instance, a low stock to flow, or not a low, a high stock to flow number, meaning it's really a measurement of its scarcity, which meaning it's actually deflationary and does not inflate. Gold is the best we've ever known. And when the next Bitcoin halving happens, Bitcoin will be the best stock to flow, the most sound money humanity has ever experienced. Just based on the stock to flow. And you can argue the stock to flow with me, that's fine. Again, stock to flow is the amount, stock would be the amount currently in existence, and the flow would be the inflow of new supply. Bitcoin will have new supply until the year 2140. After that, there will be no more new Bitcoin, and Bitcoin stock flow ratio will go to infinity, because the supply is hard set. Now, currently, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. Currently, we've already mined over 18 million. So the supply is largely done. And this stock to flow ratio at the next halving, which will be in 2024, roughly, should give it the highest stock flow ratio ever. Again, making it the most sound money. I know I keep repeating myself, but I really want you to go read up onto what is sound money. And you're thinking, well, whatever, the government's in control of things. I'm not saying the dollar is going to just go away, right? This is just an evolution. It's something that doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And as the world becomes more and more familiar with Bitcoin and using money in this way, for instance, it has started mostly in third world countries, and it will move its way to second world and then to first world countries. Because, for instance, a remittance, which is a fee, remittance is, well, there's a lot of fees in remittances, I should say, is like, say I'm in America and I want to send money to someone in El Salvador. Well, I'll tell you, the person in El Salvador is going to have a hell of a time just getting the money, because most people, billions of people in the world, don't have bank accounts or even access to have a bank account. And so if I'm in America and I'm sending money to my mother in El Salvador, I'm going to have to probably go through Western Union, and I'm going to pay very high fees to get that money to her, and it's going to take days for it to get to her. So if I just want to send her $20, by the end of it, she's probably going to get like $14. And it's going to take days to get it. And she's got to go to a Western Union location, which, say, in El Salvador and a lot of countries, because this is the scenario, because they don't really have much for banks, the they'll get jumped when they walk out of Western Union, because the main reason people are walking into the Western Union is to get money. And so these gangs and these criminals will just wait outside for them to walk out of Western Union, then they'll jump them and take their money. And this is a really common scenario around the world. Now, I don't know where you live, but I live in America. That's not really something we can even really relate with, because we got a bank on every damn corner. And with that being said, the banks, they really inflate the hell out of the money. And they charge us a lot, and they are our custodians, and them and the Reserve are really in control of it. And we are not. The money, you and I are not in control of even our own money, really. But with Bitcoin, there's no central authority. So no one can take our Bitcoin. No one can inflate it. No one can print more of it. No one can debase it. No one can screw it up, because it is its own thing. And I think it was brought through, use whatever word you want, divinity, universal intelligence, God, whatever you want to call it. But it was brought to us through, Satoshi Nakamoto, which is not his or them or hers real name. But something came through them, and they created Bitcoin, and it was something that came, and it's perfect because no one even knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, or who the team is, or who the person is, or whoever, because they just walked away and let it grow without humans being able to screw it up. They let a community actually take over and let it go out and survive, which is actually the way of nature. I've created this thing, now let it go and see if it can grow. And Bitcoin has done nothing but grow without anyone's help, with no one running it, because it allowed a community to form around it. And it just keeps forming and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's so big, you can't stop it. It is hitting, point break, whatever it is, whatever threshold. You can't stop it now. So in my opinion, I'm always buying Bitcoin, and I'm never selling Bitcoin, because it's going to do nothing but go up in value. And I can't say that about anything else on this planet. You can argue real estate, you can argue all this stuff. Yeah, sure. Okay, real estate is a pretty good place to put your money. I don't disagree with that. But Bitcoin is actually going to take a chunk out of the real estate market. What do I mean by that? Sure, obviously it can't be physical real estate, but I mean in terms of the investment that goes into real estate, because there are people with lots of money, and they just buy real estate just because it's a good store of value. Bitcoin is and will continue to, in my opinion, become the most obvious, best store of value in existence, even over real estate, even over gold. And that brings money to it. The thing with the best store of value attracts the most money. That is a law, an economic law. The thing that holds the best value attracts the most money. That is a law. I'm going to cut this video off. I've been talking on for a while. But again, I agree with Hostetler here. Only a fool could deny that this Bitcoin death cross is more like a bearish cross in red than a bullish one in green. But I do like how the Bitcoin price fell last week, as if to say, let's get over with, then we can rise. Because frankly, I want Bitcoin to bust either way. I want it to go up or down. I don't really care. If it goes down, I'm excited because I get to buy more Bitcoin for cheaper. If it goes up, awesome. My Bitcoin's going up, and it's going to attract more money and more interest. And then it's going to go down again. And then I'm going to buy it. Because I buy Bitcoin when it's down. Because I know it's going to go back up. Again, do your own research, not financial advice. These are my opinions. All right, Bulls, stay classy. You're awesome. Thank you for watching this with me. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and go ahead and check out the links in the description. You'll be glad you did. See you tomorrow.